The Iranian president says the U.S. move to block international humanitarian aid to Iran's flood-stricken provinces is an unprecedented crime. Hassan Rouhani made the remarks in a meeting with a number of ministers, heads of executive departments and officials and lawmakers. Rouhani added that even Iranians living abroad were not able to send their aid to their fellow countrymen due to Washington sanctions. He also called on the Iranian Foreign Ministry and the country's legal bodies to pursue the issue through legal channels. Many provinces across Iran were hit by torrential rains over the past 2 weeks. Over 60 people have been killed and hundreds of others have been injured. Many houses and agricultural farms have also been destroyed. To discuss that more, we're joined by political commentator Jason Unruhe, who is joining us live from Ontario. Thank you very much, Mr. Unruhe, once again for joining us on Press TV's World News. Now, how is this even possible? On the one hand, we have Mike Pompeo offering help publicly to the flood-stricken areas in Iran, and on the other hand, we have news coming in from the ICRC and also from Iranians abroad who are trying to send in aid, and they can't because of U.S. sanctions. How does that work out?
Well, I think it's almost a tactic by the United States. One, it tries to make Iran reliant upon U.S. aid, whereas they would not be able to receive aid anywhere else. And we do know that the United States has frequently weaponized aid against many countries. You know, if they'll block it from other countries, but they will send their own aid, this certainly seems to tell me that they're trying to sneak something in with this aid. Now, we saw this previously with Venezuela. They attempted to send weapons to anti-government rebels inside the country. So I wouldn't be surprised if this was some kind of similar tactic. I don't know if there's some kind of equivalent to this inside of Iran, but the whole thing is very suspicious. If nobody else is allowed to send this kind of aid to Iran, but the United States government is allowed to do it, then that certainly raises some serious red flags about what's going on. I think that this might also be a power play on the part of the United States to try to look magnanimous in the face of the world. Oh, look, Iran needed our aid in order to deal with their situation, while essentially trying to make them reliant upon it. I mean, on a political level, that seems to be the kind of direction they're going in. On a moral level, this is absolutely reprehensible. To actually take people who are suffering from a natural disaster and then turn around and block them from receiving aid is nothing more than an act of inhumanity. I mean, this is the kind of thing that wouldn't even be wouldn't necessarily even happen during a war. Even war has better rules than this. I think this act by the United States is absolutely morally repugnant and very much shows the real face of U.S. imperialism, despite this idea that we're supposed to have, that is this great caring influence that wants to bring peace and democracy to the world and to help everybody. But here they are causing a terrible situation. I mean, it's not enough that they would say they choose not to help. That would be one thing. But to stop other Iranians from helping their own people is just a new level of despicable. I don't know if this falls under any kind of international law.
Exactly. That was going to be my next question, Mr. Unruhe. We also heard the same thing from the International Committee of the Red Cross, who said that they were unable to send aid to Iran due to U.S. sanctions. Do you believe that this might fall under any kind of international law? Is this legally something that we could legally file a complaint against?
Oh, I think that there would probably be some kind of legal avenue to file a complaint. I don't know if there's specifically any law against it, but this certainly seems like the kind of thing that would have been written at one time or another. I can't think of any precedent in this kind of situation because I can't think of anyone else who's been cold-blooded enough to actually do this, to prevent people from getting aid to people who need it. I can't think of another time where this happened by such a significant actor such as the United States. I mean, I assume rebel groups in some conflict somewhere probably prevented aid workers or aid from reaching particular areas. But for something as significant as the U.S. government to do it, I don't think there's any kind of precedent for that kind of action. And I would certainly think that the International Committee of the Red Cross or the Red Crescent, etc., would be looking into this to possibly push some kind of complaint against the United States. But how effective that would be, I'm very skeptical, considering that in the past they've also done many illegal things, but nobody holds the United States accountable because the U.S. lives by the motto "might makes right," and as long as nobody can physically do anything to them, the United States feels that they can do whatever they want. But there's very likely some kind of law against this somewhere. I can't imagine that this kind of inhumanity would be legal according to international law. It's quite despicable.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jason Unruhe.